Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. Just gonna make the poll. Back to order. So we're on the left agenda is special decision to develop recreation capital grants applications review. There's a lot of well, big
ones. Relatively speaking, that compared to other years, it's not as many applications this year. So I prepared a request for decision that overview of our capital grant program. So this is our first time since going through our review in the fall. The changes that we had made to our grant program. So one of those was the addition of the small capital grant project, as well as a few changes to the major capital grants. So what you have in front of you today is the applications that were submitted prior to the deadline of January 31st. There were 4 applications, 5 applications that come in all together. And there were 2 that were submitted for the small capital grants, and I would have noted in there one of those applicants was the Harvard Sailing Club, which hadn't spoken to us prior to submitting an application, so we didn't have the opportunity to give them some advice that they weren't eligible. So an application did come in, and therefore we just put it on here and just let you aware that application did come in and was received because they are a member club that so that essentially moves them from that list. But we did have one applicant that was eligible, Spark committee for that project. They're working on the teenage record on the new break that is happening a storage shed related to setup of the bear runs. They have a funding request of $8,640. So yeah, so do you want to deal with this all one first?
Yeah. Just a question about I've already heard that several times.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, so this is up to council to make the final decision on this first. But similar to any churches that are not eligible, fire departments typically we do not fund fire departments. I guess there are opportunities where there are sometimes does make an exception. And so, what I was thinking when I reviewed this is similar to, I guess, the Chester Basin when the church applied for funding related to a special event they're doing in the community. So that the church was working on it, the Legion was working on it, the fire hall was working on it, and to pick somebody that one of those partners that worked on the actual applicant and the application. And so I would compare that to this, that so the fire department, some of their members were the ones that were preparing the application, Firearms Association is a partner, and so they were willing obviously to do kind of some of that hands-on work on the roof itself. So it's kind of that partnership. So it's up to council.
it has nothing to do with fire department.
It does not. It's a community project.
Somebody else.
I'm gonna ask a question. Also, if farmers have
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
and I guess I just see I thought I think it's good direction.
I get where it could be.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't speak to it really, because I think with a number of my reports back to council, I've indicated that it is for years actually. So it's not just this year, so maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was a school was a lead as well as a farm development society. The schools kind of pulled back on a little bit. So it's a group of like-minded community focused, same project focus. So it's not event or activity or purchasing of this. It's a focused effort. These partner organizations, similar to Great Manchester, perfect example. Perfect example of traceability in terms of conversations and meetings, partnership opportunities, and those discussions over the time period leading to this provide the goal for the plan. The first thing is, of course, the fundraising record and the pursuit of the great kit, etc. Now we've advanced past that. Obviously, we have to see where we want to be, because I'm on the committee as well as a member of the Development Society. And so we've advanced to want to store that in proper fashion. So my advice to them is we can demonstrate partner discussions. We can go back through all of those discussions. We can talk about the fact that they are an eligible applicant. In this case, they are an eligible applicant because we have done it before. And that to me is evidence-based decision making. So in this case. So also, I will add, and it really doesn't matter, but the fire chief is actually the chair of our committee at the moment. I understand that there's going to be a new chair stepping up, and that's going to be one of our younger firefighters who's 18. So he's going to be chairing the committee. So it's a joint effort where everybody kind of pitches in, and the fire department took on the job in this case of putting forward the official application. They didn't complete the application on their own. That was a joint.
I have a question.
No, it was just a potential of nothing there.
I just think
No, we've not made it clear that the fire departments are, because so again, if this is a discussion, just last week, we had a municipality of Chester grant approval for the Chester Basin Fire Commission. So in terms of commissions and departments and activities or communities.
District.
That's right.
Oh, so I need to look at those guidelines again to say that private members can apply to district council grants and so on. Private members.
Yeah, that's why I was gonna ask, maybe you could help with some in your district, or you could.
Oh, you know what? You know me, just look at just look at the list just look at the list of district council grants that are spent in my district. I've already started that strategic planning and strategic discussions with all of my community groups. And I have probably a great number of community groups, just as you are, we don't be able to speak to them. And so also too, my advice to my community group is this, when it came to the finance. Put forward your budget based on the guidelines and the suggestions of what we call community groups in terms of similar examples in the past. I can't tell you up to February 1st how many people are going to be in the hump for the $25,000 that we have dedicated to the stream. And just because we have $25,000 dedicated to the stream doesn't mean that you're going to get your full amount if you're doing the application in. But what I can tell you, for consistent and fair decision making, 2 years ago, as a perfect example, and I'm about consistent fair decision making, when it comes to explaining this to our community groups, how we can pick and choose. Because I don't support picking and choosing. I don't, but it's not based on something. So 2 years ago, we had earmarked in the second intake for council grants, $5,000. And we had it in the fund. And we had an application from our housing. I support it. We had $5,000 in the fund. We had one application, they applied for $5,000. And we looked at their budget. The budget percentage that they were asking for from council, the totality of the total budget, was a lot more than what this percentage was here. So I said consistency, fair decision making, and if we are going to contribute, so that's from the next one. So my question would be, on what basis would we treat this qualifying, because they are a qualifying application, differently? And I would need to know that, and I'm just glad that we're also.
I feel like this is pretty hard and makes total sense. You know, and I'm gonna just talk a little bit about some other stuff that's happening in my area that's sort of maybe across the parallels. So East Chester Recreation Association has a community center in East Chester. It's sort of going through a bit of a revival now. Nothing has really been happening with that facility, and now they're trying to move people involved in trying to get it going again. And one of the things I said to you on break, one of the things we're actually looking at is building a storage building, just like actually exact same dimensions as the one that you put in. Great. So great. Thank you to the people who watched for coming. Great for them. That's great. And an interesting project. But what I think would be weird if they would come to council to look for some help with funding for this project. I think it would be strange for that application to come through the Chester Fire Department rather than through themselves. And I think the risk that I think is being identified here is that what we can see is a potential for layering of grants on one particular project by using a variety of associations to source them. And I would be prepared to support this, but I think that if we find that next round we find basically another request for the same sort of project just through another avenue, I think we're going to have to look at that carefully, because I just see this as an opportunity, maybe a weakness in our policy, that we can layer. We don't want the Chester Arts Center to come in and say we want to do a project, and then we have a bunch of other organizations around Chester also make applications for something that benefits the Chester Arts Center to get around our policy. And I think that's the risk. I think that I don't want to speak for Billy, but I think that's the risk to identify. And again, this is a great project, and I don't think I'm reading the body language. I don't think anybody has a problem with this request. I think the concern is that there's going to be an additional request down the road that also relates to this property. And in that case, there may be a hard discussion.
Yeah, I think that's true. As far as I'm concerned, they are eligible. They've done it so many times in the past. It's got nothing to do with the fire department. It has all to do with community in general. So they're eligible. So no way out. But I do understand where Floyd's coming from. I don't solve that. But I think that we need to take a look at perhaps how we can control it.
So just, I guess everyone can picture where the rink is. It's not on the side of the fire.
No.
It's like the fairground, under the public structure, absolutely. And it's not, just looking at one of those words, second one here, another application coming up to layer. This project is assembled, it's going to be deassembled, it's going to be all the way from the main area of fairgrounds to the activities will be held during the rest of the year. So unless there's another project that's going to come in, that's going to, and I guess, heads up to me, I should have this application in front of me. Chance that there could be another application from Fairgrounds that talks about something related to outdoor activity of some sort, because there's not going to be, I can't, unless somebody else is going to come and say, we want to paint the boards or do something. There's not going to be anything, because it's an assembled project, deassembled, you're moving off of where it's at.
I think all he's trying to say is that it's a way around the rules. It could potentially.
So we have a project that is completely contained within the lands that are owned by farmers associations. And instead of the farmers association putting in the grant for the project that is on their lands, we're having the fire department doing it. And the parallel here is that we have a community center in my district that wants to do projects on their lands. And one would expect at this table that if they wanted to do a project on their lands, that benefits the project, the community widely. Even though, like, all all kinds of, like, we had the fire department, for example, just the fire department was at a recent fundraiser this summer, and they were involved with our community center, all that stuff, so they're involved, for sure. But we wouldn't expect them to put in the grant request for a storage building on our property, because it belongs with the community center, and again, like, nobody's arguing at all with the merit of this project. That project's an excellent project, and I think we've got 100% agreement here that we should support it. This is just a weird mechanism. So I would see.
Who will manage the funds and pay the bill?
See, that
Yeah,
creates a precedent.
and I guess to just, let me go answer that and see if they are eligible based on our past practice. But it may be that in the future, that if it's a capital project, the applicant has to be the person whose land is on. No, because we've done it in the past, because we built Bob Meyer, we built that tennis court on the church. Church wasn't eligible, but with this particular project, the tennis court was to be used, you didn't have to be a member of the church, it was open to the public. That's what, you know, but at least in that case, it was on the land.
So I guess here's an example, and this is all fictitious, but it's like a scenario. Let's say that we fund this through the fire department, and then next time there's a mistake, the actual farmers association then comes forward and they say, well, they want a new ticket booth or something like that. Well, normally, if they had asked for the first one, we wouldn't give them the second one, but this is a way to do both projects and have us fund them both.
There's the potential to get around the system.
So I have a question. What would be the problem with that? If the community is doing great work and there are qualifying, if there are great things happening in any of our districts and they are completely separate from each other, ticket booth, say,
So to answer your question, Steve, the problem with it is if we really only want to give one grant for one project per year, then that's what we do. We don't create this loophole that come up with all these different community groups to make applications so that you can have multiple projects on the same project. It's
This is
just
a
a big,
loophole
it's
we
just a
hadn't
big
done.
farce, so.
So Chad, can I ask you a question? So let's say, for argument's sake, that the Farmers Association could apply, just change the name of the application from the Rudolph Fire Department to the Farmers Association. Could we do that with their money? Like, we could do that within the fiscal year for the budget and all that. Is that a doable thing?
I think we would have to communicate that with the group,
Okay,
but
what do you think about that?
so first off, I want to just go back to confidence.
Oh,
Because I just want to be
okay.
sure, I want to be sure. Not to jump on the loophole, but did you actually use the word, this is a farce? I want to be clear about
We're clear.
it.
It's a fault in our system that we need to find some way to correct.
Yeah, we can, like, let's say that we have let's say that my community center that's next to my place. I can't just find 20 community groups to all make projects on that community center property and do them all in 1 year. Find ways to do, maybe they're great projects, but that's not our intention here, is to have all these different projects on one property in 1 year. Like, that's the reason why we put the limitation in. This is a total loophole. And for you to shake your head and say, no, it's not, well, it clearly is.
If it wasn't capital, it might be different, because like, I'll speak to the Chester Basin one. The church is applying it, of course, it's the district one, but the church is applying. But there's no capital, anything to it, it's just a fun day. And you have the fire department, the Legion, everybody else participating. The only reason they're making the application is because they had the volunteer base to manage the paperwork. That's the only reason. You know, but if it was a capital project on some, I see the loopholes on the capital side, it's a problem. And we need to fix that. But in terms of eligibility, yes, they are.
It's a great project.
Yeah, not a problem. It's just that we need to fix that.
So, so to answer the question, we have two discussions, I can't answer. I would request that the group comes up and present security. In terms of the fact that we could do a conditional approval today based on, it's a money figure, then it's the, we check this. So I would request that my committee, you can chat with them about your concerns after we debrief off the live stream, of course.
No, it's our concern, it's a shortfall in our policy. Yeah. That's all.
So to answer Bella's question, would work.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, I'm just trying to find it. Because we all want to support Clark.
Yeah, we know what all it's done is identify a loophole in our.
This was a
our
decision
policy.
committee. For the applicant.
But if we find the next round that the members association, and we get another project, and the answer at this table may well be no.
And because we've already.
Whether they can or not. Because we'll know that they already had a plan.
So on the capital side of things, we're probably gonna have to change the policy that the applicant has to be the owner of the project. If they want to use the fire department to help them manage the project. So anyway, let's move on. We don't have.
We're gonna separate the rules.
Well, I think we're gonna deal with the little ones.
We might not do it, I'll move it, except that this approved grant, yeah, that's good.
Second. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Here, you just need to get to blue. Okay, and
On the major capital applications, we had 3 that were submitted, and all 3 of these groups have previously come into council and made a presentation on the project, so they should not be unfamiliar to you. So we have an applicant from the application from the Chester Municipal Heritage Society, and of course, this is Carol that was in to speak about the renovation to their freight jet and construction of that platform and accessible ramp. We have the Lighthouse Food Bank that to let them know nothing for the food bank, their intention to install a walk-in fridge, a walk-in freezer, as well as that facility. And lastly, was through the years learning center, we're working on that new playground. So we have all 3 of those funding requests that come in here. So there was one change that I wanted to note in here, the Chester Municipal Heritage Society. So when Carol was in and made her official presentation, excuse me, the amount being requested was $77,666. And so as they were redoing their budget, getting new quotes in, getting information, that budget had expanded to what's in the copy that was presented to you.
just remind me the amount.
So $99,753.
Is that how much is that? Just so
$53,707
over the years.
was $20,000.
So what do we have in the budget?
So we have $250,000, and we have a total request of $173,460.
Which is just based on statement discussion. So that's what we have to insurance, looking at our guidelines, knowing we've got deadlines, knowing that we've got requirements. Okay, so the deadline is January 31st, and the information provided at that time was 77,000 and something or other. And that was a totality of the budget. Okay, but the whole question. But since that time, you should look at this. There are all of those line items in there. There's like accessibility. Is that starting with 1,500? I can't imagine that wasn't included in the first round to add to 77,000.
Yeah, so some items, some of the amounts change, some of the.
So those are all included. Every item.
I didn't compare them side by side.
I don't
so
think
I'm
they were.
not sure what.
Although I can do it on my hand, I guess, but that's, to me, just for having a discussion, that's not redoing and getting quotes in. case, that's an actual new line item as part of the budget. So for me, is the deadline January 31st, or is it?
Their application for January 31st was for 77,000.
Yes.
How can they change it? After they,
So, that's a great question. So,
they can't. That's the long and the short of it.
Yeah.
They can't.
so their original budget came in and their original request was 77,669.
So that met the deadline. 99 does not meet the deadline.
That was what was amended at the
I mean, we're gonna have policy that says it has to be by deadline, and let's stick to it. All right, so that's why we're in trouble. So the request from the Heritage Society, the application we had at the deadline was for 77, not 99. That's what we're using for a figure.
77, 80,
77,666 was the exact
Yeah,
amount on the
Maybe
application.
in January.
I have a question for you.
Okay,
Right now,
there's no motion, and that's just policy.
is it generally policy?
Yes.
change it.
Unless it's a real reason.
Oh, we can cut it too, but whatever.
Yeah, we don't do this.
To increase it? At the end of the day, it's so all, none, some.
No, the request that came in was not.
That would be highly regulated.
There was a deadline to submit an application.
I don't disagree with you. I just want to make sure I know the rules.
Very good.
That is the rule.
Since we're talking rules and Jay hasn't gotten to the revenue side. So maybe I should have a huge, but when you jump down the page of the budget, with the revenue. It wouldn't be something that I'm thinking that look outside of the fiscal year that we're in. So part of the revenue listed here, it says provincial business accessibility service general. But it says application plan for 24-25, not applying to 24. So that revenue is outside of the budget we put in place in front of us. So they're.
Yeah, so I believe that is supposed to be, that has a 1 year.
Okay. Good, okay, good. Thank you. Because that would be also another extreme in that if we are looking to groups as part of our guidelines, that they 30% must be from another source. 30% must be from another source. So that would, I think, would get that.
So we have 3 applications.
In their presentation. There has been some discussion. Another 5,000. Yeah.
No, the charges. The fees that they charge for kids to go there. And now you.
And with that, some discussion to have based
Are you talking about the $5,000 each fee? That's a separate issue.
the same group.
Made that change this year. The school decided.
It's a community.
It's a community use, like in terms of the program.
No, I get the value.
Okay.
Trust me.
Okay.
Process. Just go ahead and raise that point.
But here it's just, and again, it's mostly for going forward. But no other levels of government. No other levels of government would, they would look at a budget, they would backroot any non-expense or what might be a revenue or receivable, So I'm specifically talking about HST. So in my experience, and it's still current, provincial federal applications are provincially and federally, they would not find an expense that I would put forward that I would be having HST or HST revenue. So I'm only asking the question because in this case, we have a couple of some given on now, they have a couple of things that are HST included. There's a big one, 49,000 HST included. So when you look at it, it's not 49,000, it's actually 45,000.
That's probably some HST.
So I'm just asking, because other levels of government don't fund what's coming back. And just to make sure that it's right, which is the HST directly put into the meeting, but I looked at another organization that is a registered charity, supports community center, so I gave the treasurer a call just to find out what the percentage is. It's not 100%, we know that, but it is a straight 50%. So when you back that up, it's not an expense.
Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, I think it makes sense to do so.
All right,
All right.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
So when the Herc Society representative came with that project of moving the caboose that was going to be free to their property and solicited some district council grants to move that caboose, I think there was no discussion at that time that there was going to be a subsequent ask of up to $100,000 for a portion, it's not even the entirety of the proposed project. At that time. It was just, can you help us move a caboose? And here we are now with staring down the gun barrel of a project that is going to be, sounds like this is just phase one of it. It's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars to build a railway museum, and it sounds like it's going to be mostly funded by Teamstone, by the looks of the percentage breakdown of who the partners are, almost none of which have been committed to, actually committed to funds besides maybe ourselves. I mean, everybody loves the representative that came here, and there's no question of value that Burgess Society brought to our museum. But I think I would have a hard time in my view defending spending any significant amount of money on building a railway. I just do not think that's a priority for me. Had that discussion happened at the very outset, and there was the request to bring this thing here. I think that the request for the district grants probably would have been denied. We knew that this was going to be the next step, and that this was all going. I do not support this project at all. My vote, if you will, is zero. This is not a priority of this. I don't think that anybody in my district would say that they would. That's where I'm at on it. It's not that I don't value society, not that I don't value their projects, but this is not a priority. It's nowhere in any of our strategic plans or open space plans or any of the work that I recommend. And I've never seen anybody say we need to build one thing. Ever. So why would we spend money here? So I'm saying it.
Well, I do know the presentation was made, some district money. There's no way, I didn't anticipate that it would be this. But, well,
If you're going to bring out the house here, you should be for it.
Not too often. Just maybe one of the occasions. I just don't see. that much. Smaller ass. But
This figure. Disagree. Yeah. This one. And I understand. So, I don't know if that much, we don't know where this is going. Now we have to. Request of this information, so it's only on the road, it's 9. That's fair. That's fair. Just want to know. Let me say, but I know the reasons I asked. Small.
Of course it is. Yes, we don't have to give the full amount of anything ever. We decide to give it $25,000, that's entirely up to us.
Reading the room.
Yes.
I'm very agree. Here, I respect the life. I do.
So what, I don't mind how much get the station produced in a usable order, but I'm a little concerned with the long-term benefit of the project.
So I want to be fair, that's not.
We most certainly.
Rather than this another day.
And again, I kind of like to even ask for some secondary. Carol has more money we're prepared to spend. But give you 25, can you accomplish it?
Well, that's where I'm headed, because this is,
I mean, the other.
could potentially be a huge drain. Yeah, and I think we're gonna, this is gonna be a bigger project, I expect, and it'll be, we want to be clear that we're not gonna be.
Yeah, vision.
Yeah.
Which is.
Oh, it's.
Let's just pursue the motion.
No.
Sense. It's Carol. Yes. It's a capacity role, so. That's one of the things that.
So is the question?
Oh, yeah, the capacity is there. I guess, what I don't know either. Maybe this is, but you would statement, I think she sent through copies of checking accounts and bank statements, but those aren't, no, I don't think it was, I think it was just the bank statements. So that's not like Mary Ellen, she can do the finance. And I think that Carol Master would be just the chair of the registered organization. She said that she had a favorable so they would be able to do it. They have the statements, so maybe we could see those two. Because I don't also see here in this budget what the group, or maybe this is, I know we're getting into it, but it's important to me to ask these questions today. What the group itself is putting into this budget, so we can answer that really quick. It's not jumping out at. How much? Oh, yeah, 45 total fund CMH is sources, but
30,000 of that is grant, and then for the non-custom village. So there's.
So now you should identify the CMH.
The Heritage Society.
That's the thing about it, is this thing. Literally behemoth, and right. There's been no background or even variety. be sure that they can actually pull this project off and now work so like comprehensive. Put it together.
Do we want Carol to come in?
Yes,
or
please.
decide? Thank you.
So I can follow up with Carol and ask her to come in, and some of these points that have been raised. So the financial statements, the HSD rebate, the group's contribution, to pay the work, so I'll ask her, that's what council is looking for information on all those topics prior to making a decision.
I've been going through as you mentioned, it's significant. When you look at the estimates of the HSD.
Fair enough, because we've done it.
So good for you.
And other projects. that-
Okay, we gotta move forward.
Okay, so I think I'll just speak to the food bank one. I'm fully in support of that. You see that? I got the HST.
Well, I don't know if we're purchasing fridges and stoves, you think they'd be paying for it? Well, you gotta use the same criteria.
Yeah,
Yes,
if you can improve the grant without the HSD part of it. Yeah,
I think we can change our grant program to say, it's in the future that HST costs
Rebates.
are eligible.
yeah, that's right.
Are we gonna approve this one?
Yeah.
Somebody move it.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? For the years. We do something.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Oh, motion carried. Very best of luck. That's the end of this year. Go to work. So, motion to adjourn.
second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Take a 5